Silencer Central. Folks, if you want to learn something new right alongside me, check it out at silencercentral.com. I've never put a suppressor on any of my weapons, but I'm going to start now, and I'm using Silencer Central to help get me started because they walk you through the whole process, to include you can ship the rifle to them, they'll thread it, they'll put it on, and they will ship it back, and you can make payments on the whole thing while you wait for all the licensing to get approved, which they take care of for you. It's a great process, and it's a great company, American manufacturer, right there in South Dakota, and we are really excited to be partnering with them. So check it out at silencercentral.com or give them a call at 888-781-8778 and let them know that you heard it on the Western Huntsman. Hoffman Boots is my go-to boot. I love the Explorers in the 8-inch, and they've got the Vibram sole, totally waterproof, no break-in period. They just glue your feet to the mountain. You can't ask for more out of a boot, and you don't have to break the bank to get a pair. So check it out at hoffmanboots.com. Again, another American company. Local North Idaho friend of mine who runs this company decided to make some great hunting boots for all people that are serious about getting into the backcountry to chase elk and deer and bear and everything else out there. So check it out at hoffmanboots.com. Use promo code all caps lock Huntsman10 at checkout to save you 10%. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Tine studio right here in Clark Fork, Idaho. I have got somebody on the line. I've been, I don't want to say I will. I'll say it. I'm kind of a fanboy. I've been following along with him for a long time. He's somebody that I've looked up to for a long time in terms of just overall archery hunting, getting out there, keeping your body healthy, keeping motivated to do this thing that we do. And he is the one and only Aron Snyder. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
No, I appreciate you joining me. It's been a long time coming from my end, just because again, it's actually kind of crazy thinking about I've got Aron Snyder on my show, man.
It's not that cool, I promise, but thank you.
So, I was hoping I've got all sorts of topics I'd love to chat with you about, but one thing I'm super curious about, this move to Wyoming. That was a big step, man. What kind of motivated you to pick up, stakes and leave Colorado and head up to Wyoming?
Well, I mean, number one, Colorado sucks now. And I say that, like, obviously I have amazing memories in Colorado. Met my wife in Colorado. I've done cool stuff, but it's changed over time. So yeah, it's a lot more liberal, basically. And, I don't get into the political stuff too much. It's, vote for who you want. But for me, I like guns. I like alcohol. I like to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to get yelled at by someone because I'm not wearing a mask, shit like that. So, we knew we were going to move. We looked at multiple different states, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming primarily, and actually some on the western slopes, some spots in Colorado. So we actually were kind of warned up, mostly from Ike, kept giving me shit about not moving to Riverton, but we came up here and looked at it. We liked it. Obviously we live a little bit outside of town. But it was more our speed, people wave,
yeah,
and people like guns and freedom. So that was a big, obviously the hunting and fishing is amazing up here. So that was the big reason, better lifestyle.
Yeah, I used to drive through Riverton all the time, man. I miss there's Wyoming, and I've said this on the show before. Wyoming's always been a draw for me, just because it is like what you said. It's still America, like Idaho. I love Idaho, but if I had to leave Idaho, Wyoming would be the next stop. I don't think that's ever going to happen, just because I'm pretty happy here in Idaho, because it's a lot like that. You know, we like our guns.
Idaho
and,
is solid.
Yeah, Idaho's a solid place. So, and I get the best of both worlds, man. I live right on the border of Montana, so I can just pop over to Montana anytime. But it was Riverton, well, just like Wyoming in general. Obviously, you'd been into Wyoming several times or whatnot before you moved there. Is it what you thought it was? Now that you've been there for how long have you been there now?
About a year, probably better. The only negative side actually happened, today. And when I say negative side, there's always, whatever little, idiosyncrasies and shit. But somebody had told me today that if I parked my truck at one of the trailheads, the outfitters might pop my tires. And
Oh, really?
I laughed at, well, who knows, right? I laughed at that because it's like, those kind of things is like, hey, man, just tell me, like, hey, can you park a different truck there? I get it. They're worried about their areas. That portion of it's kind of comical because it seems easier to me rather than popping someone's tires to come up and say, hey, don't park your truck here. You might screw up the area, which makes total sense to me. But outfitters are very protective of their areas here, as they should be. But overall, a lot better than I had hoped. Today we went on a big loop, me and Dan Collins, got a bunch of videos and content for our new bino harness. We were photographed everything from pheasants to bighorn sheep to buffalo. We put a little, we had to hike a bit to get some of the photos, but just an amazing place. And I can't, I don't want to get yelled at by the locals by, saying how cool Wyoming is, but, there's downsides. It's fucking negative 45 and snowed 5 feet.
And wind.
Yeah, well, where we're at, the wind isn't quite as bad. And, but it gets cold, right? I mean, most people aren't going to like 4 months of 10 to negative 20. But for us, man, yeah, we could have asked for more.
Yeah, I would not do what I'm doing now in Wyoming because of the winters. We live in a fifth wheel right now until our house gets built. On our bare land here. And we don't get that like extreme negative. We got down to like negative 19 once this last winter, but it's not like Wyoming where it's just this consistent thing, like you're living on the damn tundra, and so everything would have froze up in our fifth wheel anyway. You mentioned that bino harness, dude. I'm pretty excited about that. Can you tell us a little bit about the bino harness?
Yeah, I mean the reality as far as coming out with it, for many years I said I wouldn't do one. I said we, the company. I had friends that built bino harnesses, and I didn't want to infringe on how they make a living. Over the last couple of years, it was very clear they did not mind infringing on how we made a living, meaning they started making a lot of the stuff that we make. And
gotcha.
so I wasn't mad, right? But capitalism, business, I'm like, well, they seem to be cool with it, so I guess we're going to come out with a harness. And so Bender's kind of the brainchild behind this. He's my chief designer. I gave him some parameters. He ran with it. We worked on it 4 years ago, got to a point, and I'm like, man, I just don't want to do it. And then 2 years ago, before the move, we were pretty hard and heavy, and then we moved. And then in the last 6-7 months, we really took everything we'd been working on for the last few years. And then, he went to town on it. We tried to keep it a secret for a while just to make sure we could do what we wanted to do with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always the parameters of weight, right, and cost. Those are the big ones. And so I wanted one that had two things. One, I wanted like a quick drop pocket or a cell pocket, or how it is, you're calling in a bull, you're shitting your pants. I don't want to try to put it in the side pocket while shaking, and you know what I mean. Or I want to film, and I'm like, Bender, that it'd be cool if that pocket you could film out of it, so you can actually turn your phone on and film out of that one pocket, clear view right in front of you. So really? Whether I'm tying a D loop on, or I'm just filming, let's say I'm filming a blood trail, anything. Right. Or I'm just doing a time lapse around camp, set my tent up on wide angle. You can do whatever. So you can film off that pocket, but it's a quick drop pocket. So for me, how you're caping an animal and you got a bunch of extra if you use an interchangeable blade knife. They're
Mm-hmm.
laying everywhere. You could put those in their original package. You obviously drop calls in that, your phone, your GPS, you whatever, right? You can put a 10,000 MHz battery pack in that, and then run it to the front pocket we call the nav pocket, and charge your phone up while you're walking. So we have a
Really?
nav pocket that's with it. The nav pocket, if you can imagine, you unzip it, it drops down, it's off your body at a 90-degree angle. And then you can watch, like, Spartan Forge, on X, whatever, and you can nav off of it, or you can put your GPS in there, your sat phone. So there's a lot of options with it that were not offered before. The last thing I wanted to hear is some bullshit that we copied anybody, even though I've helped design multiple harnesses. So Bender did a really good job with that. So we also have an accessory pocket and a rangefinder pocket, which everybody does that. So.
I'm freaking excited about that, man. Bino harnesses have been the bane of my existence. They're always missing something for me. And I like this one because of, I didn't know you could film out of it, by the way. That's super cool. When is it coming out, man?
Pre-sale starts May 5th, and then we'll be shipping, I don't know, not too long after that. I don't think initially we'll keep up with demand. Is part of the problem with American-made, true American-made manufacturing. It's hard to keep up with. So, and when I say true, we're sewing these here at our office. So,
yeah.
But yeah, we should be able to, get a large amount out. For me, we'll probably have, like anything, a Gen 2 in a couple of years, but we worked really hard on this one to not have any, I don't know, oh shits, right? 3 months.
Sure.
This is breaking. Oh, this, whatever. And I will say, if you load that thing full and you put giant items on the left and right side, your binos fit perfectly normally. And then if you put stuff on the left and right side, it'll get, it takes away from circumference. And so, we looked at doing some different things to that potentially in the long run. But for me, and, people who have tested it were like, hey, we like this. We don't really want to add weight to it. And so, we'll see how it goes for a couple of years and go from there. But we've worked pretty hard on this. I'm excited about it.
What I like about, and obviously I've only seen it in that video on the Kifaru Instagram there, and it looks like that strap is lower than everything else I've been running lately, which that's the one that goes around the back. What's been going on with me is I wear a chest harness for my pistol, and
yeah.
And it does one of two things. Either that strap gets in the way, or it makes the bino harness so bulky that when I draw my bow, I get hung up in it. And so it looks like you've solved two problems for me. And I'm a monkey with this shit, man. I'm not like a big time gear junkie. I've got a lot of friends that are they're like way into gear and whatnot, and I'm just not one of those guys. But I need things functional. And so bino harnesses, just like I said, I've just had a freaking problem with them. So I'm pretty excited to get this one. I want to I'm going to be watching. So you guys will announce when it's pre-sale kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep. We will. And my dad and actually it's more my grandpa used to always say, one man's shit's another man's gold. Obviously we think this thing is good or better than anything on the market with the different options that we have. And it kind of like our quiver, a lot of people like our quiver. There's a few people that don't.
Yeah.
I think that if, for how I operate out in the woods, and I know a lot of people do the same thing, it will be very conducive to that type of hunting. Meaning, if I'm on I'm doing mule deer stalks and I'm surviving off what's in my bino harness. When I say survive, I've got the normal shit in there. If anything goes downhill, I don't have a pack with me. My nav stuff's in there. I may need to film on my own. My pack's back where I left off. You've got all that. And then if you want to run Spartan, you pull that nav pocket off and it's very sleek, not in your way. For something off the side of the road, more in and out hunting like Alberta, South Dakota, antelope, you're not going to have you're not going to potentially have to have 10 million different things on there. And you can still take the nav pocket off and fit the cell phone in the pack, in that pocket you can film from. So again, we tried to make it as versatile as we possibly could.
Huh. Yeah, that's going to be sweet, man. Let's see. I just pulled up. I'm back on Kifaru.net here. Because there was one of the packs I wanted to ask you about too. I need what do you recommend? I don't want to make this like a big Kifaru commercial, but I need a day pack, man, that is like not every day pack I've had has been pretty bulky, and I've got this big 4K pack that it's gotten too bulky. Something just light, man. Let's see, I'm pulling. See, this is why I said let's record over the phone, because my internet's not working. Because I was going to ask you about one in particular. Let's see, the Echo.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you don't need the capabilities to haul crazy weight and you're just carrying a small amount of stuff, especially if you're running hounds and shit, yeah, the Echo is what we tell everyone to get for running hounds specifically. Because when I have a camera with me all the time. Even with that Echo, I've got 2 Nalgene's because I drink water like crazy. I generally got the leashes in there. Basic survival, basic first aid, a camera, a sandwich, a knife, some basic shit. It all fits in there fine, rides tight to your back. It doesn't suck. I don't wear a belt on it, so I'm pretty agile climbing cliffs, so I don't have a belt. How a belt can kind of hinder maneuverability. I don't wear a belt with those smaller packs. I wear that thing literally for the reason I wear an Echo is because I don't want to, if I needed a pack with a belt, then I get it, right? Like, okay, I'm going to strap a lion to the pack. But for the most part, when I have that Echo, I want it as Spartan as possible, and I want to be as fast as I can. And so that thing makes the most sense.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm going to put that in the cart, man. Are those... There we go.
We ship in like 5 days, if that was your next question. Those ship out in 4 or 5 days.
Perfect. Size, you don't have any, odd question here, man. You don't have any youth packs, do you? Like something that fits, my daughters are teeny.
Yeah, like an E&E. An E&E would be good. That's like a good school book bag type of, your kid can beat the holy living hell out of it for 4 years of high school and not need to buy a new one.
Is that on the website? Oh, yeah, I see it right there. Oh, sweet. Those are pretty cheap, too.
Yeah, that's an escape and evade. Originally, those were designed for pilots to go into their seat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if they crash, they have their little E&E bag in there. Their kit. Yeah. Now they're used for all kinds of shit, but yeah.
Nice, man. I've been looking for a pack for them for a long time. They get pissed at me because I buy these cheap little camo packs wherever I can find them, but they just suck. Well, cool, man. I appreciate all that. I don't want to make it a big commercial here, but it's good stuff, obviously. And let's kind of switch the conversation here. You know what's weird, man? Don't take this the wrong way, but I'm like nervous talking to you for some reason. I don't get nervous talking to people ever. So what the fuck?
It happens. Fuck, I don't know. Did that bleed? I'll fart here in a second. It'll take the nerves away, I promise. I just poured some whiskey, so that should probably help out too. So.
Yeah, I just poured one too, so we'll be good.
Perfect.
Let's switch the conversation for a minute. I wanted to get your take on this whole issue in Colorado going on with the wolf reintroduction. Is that like, what's your thoughts on this whole thing? Because it's been a big topic lately. And I mean, obviously I have a lot of opinions about wolves because of what we deal with here in the panhandle of Idaho. And I kind of see the writing on the wall. But I wanted to get somebody that's super familiar with Colorado. Give me kind of the lowdown of what your reaction is on it.
Gotcha. So to just a little bit of context to this, I've been in, Idaho, some of Montana, a shit ton in British Columbia, the Northwest Territory. So a lot of wolf experience. The initial, try to break this down and not Chris throw the shit out of this, right? Keep it quick. My initial, I don't mind wolves in the sense of wolves are a cool animal from face value. Mm-hmm. There's a big ass dog running around the woods. They howl. the preconceived notion that they're great for management is kind of fucked up to me. Like, depending on what your definition of management is, right? But like,
Yeah.
if somebody said, "Hey, we're going to introduce wolves with a strict management program," I could probably get behind that, right? I could at least understand it. I maybe not get behind it, but I could understand we are going to have this management plan implemented from day one with this wolf reintroduction. Maybe I wouldn't, again, necessarily like 100% be on board with that, but I could at least wrap my head around it and be willing to give a little, you got to, give and take, right?
Mm-hmm.
What they did is so fucked up that it's not even conceivable how the under the sheets, behind closed doors, sneaking things in, because the bottom line with the wolves, and I would argue this with anyone because I've seen it happen, they're killing machines, right? They don't have I'm going to kill 2 elk this week type of mentality. They're hard to hunt. They're tougher than shit, right? And they wreak havoc on all ungulates, and it's pretty, you don't want to watch a pack of wolves take down an animal. I mean, it's just not, it would wake, if we could show that, do a reel of those and let, granola heads watch that shit. I think they might change their mind, but
yeah, but that's never what they show. That's never what they show.
No. And I've gotten into arguments with people. I'm like, hey, I'm not against wolves. I'm against the lack of management of wolves. Like, I'm not against mountain lions, but I'm against banning, dog hunting for mountain lions. I'm against the lack of management for mountain lions. Like, the thing is, and you can go through history. There are vast, like, major peaks and valleys, right? Ungulates build up like crazy. Then the predators come in, decimate the population. Then they all starve to death, or most of them, and the ungulates build back up. And we're talking a mass expanse of many, many years, right? We're not talking a decade. We're talking, multiple decades.
Mm-hmm.
And as humans, we are here to help negate that or take care of that. Just saying, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this, and oh, look at the herd up in Yellowstone, and this happened. That shit's kind of crazy to me. And then the other thing too, if you look at like the herd or where this I guess would originally came from or originated from was Rocky Mountain National Park had too many elk. And so they said, hey, let's get some wolves in northern Colorado, and we're going to limit, we're going to run the elk numbers down. It worked in Yellowstone. And I'm like, hey, let's look at this in multiple different ways. What if, because we have to close the park down, right? If humans were allowed to go in and hunt on very high dollar tags or lottery tags, and when you do that, over many, many years how much revenue is lost by how many people are coming into the park. So we know immediately what we need to make back, or more than that, by bringing in hunters to limit that amount of elk, like lower that population. Okay, so now the monetary aspect, no one is taking a kick in the dick, right? No one's getting dinged on this. The state gets their money. The elk numbers go down, and hunters get to harvest animals, feed their family. They get to kill a bunch of elk, feed their family, whatever. Okay, well, you introduce you introduce wolves. There is no way to quantify the long-term damages of that. No one can fucking tell you that, other than they will decimate the herd to a very, very high or low population, high level of eradication, whatever word you want to use, with zero management, right? And now they're trying to cock block it to where you can't even imagine it. I saw it was popping up where they're going to try to call it a canine where you can't even hunt them. I don't know all of the details of that, but it seems pretty shady.
The entirety, if you read through the entirety of the reintroduction plan, I'm drawing a blank on what they call that document, but there is no place for lethal means for humans to manage wolves. Essentially, there's not going to be any, under any circumstance, there's not going to be any trapping, any hunting. And for some of the folks listening that might not understand wolves and understanding the difference between trapping and hunting a wolf. Hunting wolves, the success rate on that is less than 1% of 1%. Like it is so low that it's not like you just go out there and you use a rabbit in distress call and you get all these wolves running in. It just doesn't work like that, because if that were the case, we have the tools here in Idaho to get these wolves back down to the objective number, which is less than 500 wolves. We're sitting at freaking almost 1,500 wolves here in the state of Idaho. That's because there is no easy way to hunt these animals. Trapping is quite a bit more effective. We've got like one of my neighbors here. He's super good at trapping. But when you have, again, when you take outdoorsmen and a percentage of them that are effective trappers or trappers in general, that's less than 1%. And so it takes a heck of a lot of trappers out there to even do any damage. We just barely here in the state of Idaho got to the point where we were able to trap or hunt, harvest, whatever, kill more wolves than are born on an annual rate, because they reproduce like fucking rabbits, 35-40% a year. Yeah. And so the point is when the animal activists got a hold of this, and I know there's a lot of people that are really excited about this 10J thing that could put a stop to it or slow it down or put it into litigation for like 6 years or whatnot. I just don't see that happening, because the activists have sunk their teeth into this wolf reintroduction into Colorado. And the problem with that is Colorado is not Wyoming. It's not Idaho, where we have very proactive wildlife managers that run this stuff and are able to keep these activists at bay and not allow them to run the management systems and design the wolf management plan here in the, well, I'm speaking specifically for the state of Idaho. You don't have that dynamic in Colorado. I'm again, not to get political, but Colorado is run by a bunch of leftists. They're animal rights activists. They're like, half of them are vegans. They are not going to allow any kind of management. And when you take a place ripe with that amount of elk as Colorado is, and release a bunch of wolves, and these elk have never seen a wolf before. That's what happened here in Idaho. These wolves, these elk, they didn't know what a wolf was. These wolves were just running them down and catching it. I mean, it's like the elk let them do it, because they didn't know to be afraid of them. It was a shit show. It's going to be a shit show in the state of Colorado. And it's so freaking frustrating because of the slim margin that this thing even passed at this, ballot box wildlife management thing they did. What was that, 2 years ago now? And yeah. That stuff drives me freaking crazy, man. And I'm worried for the future of Colorado in terms of hunters because we all know what Colorado is now, as especially like an elk or mule deer destination. It's not going to be that. And to your point where you were talking about the revenue potential, like if you were to allow some very specific tag holders to go into Rocky Mountain Park or whatever to manage these elk that are supposedly out of control. I've actually never been to Rocky Mountain Park, man, so I don't know much about it. But so instead of that revenue potential, it's going to cost the state a bunch of money, because at some point those wolves are going to get so out of hand, they are going to have to figure out a way to get these wolf numbers down. And it's going to happen faster than people think.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that you said. Now, I've been to Rocky Mountain National Park a bunch, and my biggest issue, like I was saying before, alluding to, was it's not what's happening, it's how it's happening, and the lack of research and science or biology behind it, and then that there's no give and take, right? It's pretty underhanded as far as what's going on. And yeah, so if you ask me, hey, do you want wolves in Colorado? No. If you ask me, hey, with a very strict management plan, would you be okay with wolves in Colorado? I could deal with it, right? Like, gun to my head, I wouldn't be crying if there was a very strict management plan. Mm-hmm. If people said, hey, are you willing to testify or to make a statement about a management plan by outdoorsmen to lower the numbers to keep wolves out of Colorado long term, would you be willing to do that? Well, yeah, I'd cut a testicle off. Well, fuck yeah, I would definitely make a statement about that. The problem is those times are, it's ballot box bullshit, right? It's not. Mm-hmm. I don't even know why we're talking about it. We're fucked. But yes, I'm not happy with everything.
Well, and to the point you made about the like not having the management and God, now I just freaking drew a blank, man, because I get so mad about this kind of stuff. But wolves are not what people think. And when you have people sitting in downtown Denver that are, having a coffee at the Starbucks or eating at a vegan cafe that will have, there will be no impact to their life for wolves. These are not cattlemen. These are not hunters. These are not outdoorsmen, and they're certainly not elk. So these people are making decisions on stuff that has nothing to do with their life. There's no negative impact. And that, I think, is where a lot of like people like me get really frustrated with the status because of I was frustrated with the reaction of hunters when they were talking about this ballot initiative in the state of Colorado. I feel like there were a few people out there screaming, because I'm like you, man. I don't hate wolves. I kind of like having wolves sometimes on the landscape from a sense of, and I've said this a million times, wolves make the backcountry and the landscape just in general, hell, the front country, they've been across the highway from my place. They make it a little bit more authentic and a little bit more wild. And there's like nothing more eerie than hearing a wolf howl. You know what I mean? And so it's not that I hate them. I'm not, and I caution people not to get on this boat and start rowing this whole thing about shit, shovel, and shut up, because there's a couple things that happen with this SSS crowd. Shoot, shovel, and shut up. I said that wrong. But you're not going to shoot, shovel, and shut up. It's not that easy. I'm sorry. You're just not going to go find a wolf, shoot it, and shovel and shut up. B, it removes all credibility that we have as sportsmen when we're talking about people that care about conservation and want to be, protecting the animals and having a balance in the ecological system and yada, yada, yada. Everything that, model of wildlife conservation. When we say things like shoot, shovel, and shut up in front of a commission or all over social media, our credibility is shot, man. And so, I don't know. That's where I'm frustrated.
Yeah, and some of the, I watch South Park probably too much. If you ever watch the one where the people from the future come back and the rednecks are like, they took our jobs, you got to watch it. Some of that shit is what this reminds me of. And I was dead in the middle. I don't know how old you are. We're probably closer to the same age. Right in the thick of things of the spotted owl crisis in Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Crushed my hometown community. And, there was people saying, I love spotted owls fried. You'd see a spotted owl occasionally up in Washington and Port Angeles hanging on the sign. It doesn't really, it doesn't help our cause, because what it gives them is ammo to say, look at these dumb rednecks. This is why we need to step in. This is why we need to, whatever. So yeah, I think that, again, handling things on both sides of the fence, which is difficult, right? Maintaining your, keep your cool, keep your calm, make educated statements when you're in public, right? Put your best foot forward. I get it. You're mad, you're angry, but when you put that into the public's view, it does not help us.
One of my favorite episodes of a podcast that I ever listened to was, and I actually I didn't even know this podcast existed. It was between you and Matt Ranella. Dude,
that was interesting.
It was super interesting, man. And I ended up getting him on, I don't know, a few weeks after I stumbled across that. And it kind of, it goes to the conversation of what, like in Aron Snyder's mind, looking at the atmosphere that is social media. And I'll tell you right now, dude, I have a Facebook for the only reason I have a Facebook is to keep in touch with some Marine buddies and like family that live out of state kind of thing. I can care less. Instagram. I have an Instagram for this podcast. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing on Instagram and don't really quite get the whole whatever makes it magic. You know what I mean? So there's like necessities that I view it. But personally, I despise social media because of the atmosphere it creates, and the atmosphere that is like super hostile. It's like a my way or the highway kind of mentality, and the people can say whatever they want without getting punched in the face, kind of thing. It's always been something that has bothered me, but I want to, like, you're Aron Snyder. You own Kifaru. You're one of the most prolific backcountry hunters that I know of. And so you've got a really good pulse on I don't know how to say that, the cultural, or what should be an expectation for hunters in terms of how we behave as hunters on social media for the non-hunter out there. Does that make sense? That was a freaking long way to ask it.
No, it does. And I mean, obviously with the photography side of things, hanging out with people who don't hunt, the hunting side of things, the fitness, there's all kinds of shit involved in all of that. Right. And, when you look at social media, you see, you've got everything from everyone's perfect to hate pages and everything in between. And, the big question comes up, like, some of the hate pages are there to, in their minds, and maybe they do, like, safeguard the community, which is funny because you're just, it's like going into the Catholic Church preaching about Catholicism. Who's fucking listening, right? They're already Catholic. Yeah. The big thing is putting your best foot forward, when you're out there. And so the things that I see are, when people talk about, let's say, long range shooting for archery, I don't foresee that as a big deal, because anti-hunters could give two shits what range you shoot. They don't know what long range is. They're not hunters. How the fuck would they know if a 40 or 50 or 60 yard shot is far? What they do know is they don't want hunting, and anything that looks negatively towards hunting, they will use as ammo. And when I say ammo, right, like, shit you might share with your buddies, but you would not share in the public. And I've said this before, like, tongue in cheek, but we masturbate every day. You don't tell people about that shit. It happens by default, right? We know it happens, but you don't have to share that on YouTube or social media. So, do animals get wounded? Yeah. Don't post that shit. Do sometimes things get shot in the head, or not the most accurate shots, or a little more grueling things? You know what I'm talking about, right? Don't post that. Make it
ugly
look,
side.
Yeah, the ugly side. You can talk about that on the side. You can talk about that in seminars. When I say talk about it, right, people, educational, right, learn from it. But when you get on, and Chris has brought that up with me, what does my page consist of? What I want it to consist of is, okay, I'm a very good, representation, I hope, of wildlife management, photography, things like that. Like, I love the outdoors. I love wild animals. I love wild places. I also love to consume wild game, and I love to hunt like crazy. I love to go fishing, and I have a life. I've got 5 dogs now. I've got a normal life. I'm not this bloodthirsty mercenary that's just going out and shooting shit and keeping the head of it, right? That's the big thing that you see.
The trophy hunter.
And like, the trophy hunter. And when you look at, one of my posts went viral. I think it's up to 50 million views. It was just me shooting a recurve at a foam target. And you want to talk about like a exercise in frustration, and like what would you want to call it? Exercise, or it was literally me watching these posts about, like, literally, this person is this guy's a horrible person, right? This guy should be shot, his family should be killed, whatever, and it's a foam target. And what it makes you realize, when I say, which I didn't give a shit, I'm just reading them and learning, is how blind these people are and how much they need to be educated. Like, okay, this is what we do. We are not demons. And what's really crazy is when they eat cheeseburgers and shit and they're yelling at you. So just educating people about that. And I think that we're lacking, without me running on the mouth anymore, we're lacking everyone moving forward, rowing the boat in the same direction, not putting holes in it. We need to work on that. And then two, obviously the education portion of this. Like, you run into somebody at the trailhead that is anti-hunting, don't just say they're a fucking moron and then move out. Talk to them, right? Explain who you are. Make yourself, show them you're a good person. Show them you're a good outdoorsman, that kind of thing.
That's the thing that sucks about social media. Is you can't, the humanism aspect of it is gone. You know what I mean? Like, it's so easy to demonize. Like I can do it all day long. I get on Twitter, and I just got the Twitter back, man. It's pretty funny. I'm pretty brutal on Twitter, because anybody that listens to this show knows that I do not like liberalism, and so there's that aspect of it, and I have to remind myself that these are humans, and if I was sitting in a bar having a beer and this person was sitting next to me, it would not be this nasty, right? And so to the next extent or to the next level, that's the same thing with hunting. And I think that it's really easy for us to just kind of fly off the handle, which again I'm guilty of. The outlook and the perceptions and the life experiences and the value systems and everything that people hold are very unique to that particular individual. And that's something that we don't get on social media. And so when you say educate, like the one thing you said, it's the same people that might be eating a cheeseburger. One of the most, it's pure insanity. This lady, my buddy Bob, he got attacked by a grizzly bear over in Montana, had him on the show a couple years ago. And Bob got, when, it was like all over in the news, big deal, media story. He had people sending him death threats because he was elk hunting. He was over there in Montana elk hunting, got mauled by a grizzly bear and sprayed in the face by bear spray by his buddy. He had a rough day. Anyway, he's getting all sorts of death threats on social media because he's in the news, obviously. This lady is like at this seafood restaurant in her profile picture, right? She's wearing one of those lobster bibs, they put around you, and she's holding up these lobsters. And she's like screaming and yelling in this post at Bob how he's a murderer. And that's the kind of stuff. Is that the kind of person you're talking about educating, or like kind of expand on that?
Yeah. So when you talk about education, you have people on both sides of the fence. You have people that are so far to the right, they have to look to the right to see the left. You have the same thing, wackos on both sides.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I don't give a fuck about those people. You're not going to change their ways. It'd like be telling me to not chew Copenhagen. Yeah, I understand. I'm going to keep chewing it, right? Not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's more of the mid-road people, the people that don't have the knowledge base, the people that are searching for knowledge. The people that honestly are eating chicken, cheeseburgers, and beef from the store of like, hey, that did not die of old age. Like, letting them know, hey, we are just like you, except we go out and we hunt an animal in wild places. We still take the meat home. Here's my freezer. It's full of meat. You want some? Here, that kind of shit. Like, yeah, the wackos, you're not gonna change their perspective on life. And I'll give you an example. Like when I do photo shoots, or I go into a mountaineering store that has people climbing Everest that don't, they're not one way or the other, and they see what they see on social or wherever they get the info from. Is to say, they're like, oh shit, this guy, yeah, he's a backcountry dude, yeah, and we're bullshitting, right? We're talking. Oh, you're a hunter? Yeah, I hunt, man. I hunt a lot, actually. It's kind of my life. And, oh, dude, why do you kill animals? And I'm like, well, man, do you eat meat? Well, I mean, I eat turkey and fish. And I'm like, well, man, I mean, look at it. Do those not have a soul? Like, if you're a religious person, did God say, fuck those turkeys and fish? I don't say it like that, but I'm like, yeah. They've got a life too. And I'm like, man, I don't do anything different than you do. It's a matter of your optics and how you twist around that road of life. I eat meat just like you do, except I put in the work. And that's where the explanation goes. I'm like, man, I work out, I shoot, I practice, and I actually care about conservation and wildlife management, meaning it is important to me for those numbers to stay at a certain level for sheep, goat, elk, mule deer. Like you, man, you're just saying, I don't know about this. Like you eat animals, but you do nothing to help. And so you're one of those people that actually is hindering wildlife management because you could possibly be negative. And if you're negative, but you're also not doing anything, you're actually hurting things even worse because when I say negative, meaning you could potentially vote against something,
Yeah.
important. You are voting with no information or bad information. And, usually in this conversation, people are like, oh, shit, yeah, I eat steak all the time. I never thought of it that way. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, the ones that run out to you and call you a cocksucker when you're walking out with a steak, yeah, you're probably not going to change those people's minds. So.
Yeah, and that's the extremists are never my concern. The activists are never my concern. It's a small group of people. It's just like it's like they're generally vegans, which veganism is a very small portion of the population. Granted, they're a very loud portion, but it's one of those things where I'm always leery of statistics, but the statistical data on veganism is 86% of them or so go back to eating meat within like 18 months or something. So it's just this constant cycle. So those are not the people that I worry about. I want to ask you, like the optics of hunting in a, like that person that you were just kind of making reference to, from a sense of, yeah, man, I eat steak but why do you want to kill animals? That kind of person. I think there's a lot of those kind of people out there. Do you think that there has been enough like negative press from hunters? Because we all know when somebody reads a review to go to a restaurant, they're on what is that, like Yelp or whatever,
Reddit, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
Yelp, yeah.
You can have 10 reviews, 9 of them are good reviews, but people are going to fixate on that one bad review. And for some reason, that bad review is going to hold more water than the 9 good reviews to a lot of people. My wife's guilty. I pointed this out to my wife. We just rented this beach house over in Oregon that we're going to go to, and there's like 100 reviews and like 4 of them are bad. And that's the one she was fixating on. And I think that that's just kind of human nature. But when you translate that to hunting and the hunting community, and when you look at, like, there was what was that incident? There was like this video that went viral where these young dudes, they wounded this buck. I think it was like, Missouri or Arkansas or somewhere down there. And they're over there. The buck's trying to get up. He can't get up, and they're kicking it. And they're like abusing this animal. That does not demonstrate what hunters are, right? That's just a one-off circumstance of some asshole. But that video went viral. So now you have thousands or millions of people that have seen this, and that's what they relate to when they think of a hunter. Do you think there's enough of that bad press that we've got a tall mountain to climb, or is there enough good stuff out there that, like, that's maybe not as difficult as sometimes I interpret it personally, because I feel like it's this big thing,
Well, and that's a good question, and I get asked this a lot. And the hate pages have some to do with this, in the sense of how much, without going down this deep spiral down the shitter, that Joe Rogan, Cam Haines, Stephen Ranella, whoever other, very well-known person has, a lot what Matt and I talked about on his podcast. It would be hard to make up for what those 3 individuals have done for the good. And I'm not saying I agree with all of them, but they swing a fucking heavy hammer. And when I say heavy, we're talking like Thor heavy. Like, you can't fuck with Joe Rogan. Now, what is amazing to me is some of these, hate pages get on there and blast Rogan and Cam and Ranella. And as I say that, Ranella doesn't fucking like me at all, Steve, but they are good for hunting.
Yes.
If, when it goes into a huge platform, people maybe makes them see, a thing in a different light. Rogan's on there cooking steak, Cam's running like Forrest Gump, and Ranella's doing whatever the fuck he does, writing another cookbook, right? Like, all good.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say there's not enough bad that it's making a difference. There definitely is, but there's a lot of good as well. Trying to police our own as fast as fucking possible is going to be the biggest one. And I say that meaning like I saw some shit. Some dude shot a mule deer in the face last year and posted it.
Yes, I think I saw that. I think I saw that video.
And I saw the photo. It's like, dude, like if it, man to man or man to kid, I would just say, man, don't do that shit again, right? Like, what the fuck? Like, why would you post that again? You jerk off in the shower every morning. What you fucking tell everybody you did that? Like, don't show people this shit. That stuff is what needs to be policed for Western hunting to me.
Man, okay, I love this topic. Because I think you're right, man. You've got when you're talking about you were talking about Matt Ranella there. He kept hammering on Cam, which actually that no pun intended with that, because I have this like 12 years ago this poster in my old office that said "Keep hammering." It was Cam packing out an elk, right? You know, so but he kept hammering on that, and what I don't think that, and I'm not trying to pick on Matt here, but I don't understand how you can have this idea that these people are negative towards hunting, because look at Joe Rogan, man. He has a way of normalizing hunting and humanizing hunting because he's so articulate with that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And so it's like it's crazy to think that folks out there that have these big followings, including you, like have these big followings and whatnot, you guys are good stewards and good for the future of hunting, because I think that you all have a different approach and a way to normalize what hunting is. We are not just a bunch of savage, redneck beasts out there killing everything we see just for the sake of killing. So going back to the policing our own concept, and how does one approach that from a sense, because you know how people are, man. I sent like a private message to somebody. I was like, dude, that fucking video, he posted this video. He was shooting at a whitetail, hit the whitetail in the front left leg, right at that, I don't know, midway up. Leg starts dangling, and then the deer starts running. The little buck starts running. Leg completely detaches from the body and kind of goes flying up and into the brush, and deer keeps trucking, right? That kind of shit is the reason I use this story is because I've done that. I have made a bad shot, and I watched the leg explode, and the deer goes trucking off on three legs, right? And I'm not one of those people that is gonna act like I've never fucked up a shot, or I've everything I've done is great, because that's not the case. But I didn't post that on social media. When I sent a message, that guy was fucking pissed with me, and he told me to fuck off, and it's not your business, and blah blah blah, and I was super nice about it. How do we police our own? Like, how do we go? We had this conversation with Chris Rowe and Guy Duplanche on my on one of our series that we've been doing. Like, in your mind, what does policing our own look like?
Yeah, so and keep in mind when I say this, both now Guy doesn't probably know me from Adam, but I know him, and Chris and I obviously are friends forever.
Yeah.
Their views on some of this are different than mine. Chris is a little more negative than I am, I would say. He goes off the deep dive, and I love Chris to death. Like, if he called me tomorrow in fucking Ukraine, I'd go try to find him. But
yeah, me too.
It's not as dark as it seems in some ways. When you talk about policing, if you are diplomatic at first, like you were, and I have been, like, hey, brother, man, I was the young ones too. Please don't take this the wrong way. I am not talking down to you. But, man, just do not do that shit. Think of other hunters. Like, show that to your friends. Do not, spread the word. Like, don't show that. Now, if they tell me to fuck off, right back, which has happened, I'm just like, hey, man, you know what? I was young once too. I'm going to give you a little advice. One, I would not tell people on the internet to fuck off like that, because you will run into them, and there's a high probability they will kick your ass. So that's one piece of advice. I've learned that as well. Two, think about when you do this, would you take this to your church? Would you take this to your daughter's school? Would you take this, if that is a no, then this is pride and youth talking. That usually will wake someone up, right?
Man,
like, I wouldn't.
Dude, that's beautiful.
Well, it's because I was a fucking idiot when I was younger.
Yeah.
I would have needed to hear that myself. That's pride in youth.
Mhm.
And so once that happens, usually, like, and I don't want to act like I'm, whatever, changing the world, but I try. And I've done dumb shit too. And I shoot a lot of animals, and I've made mistakes, and I've posted things I shouldn't have. But the way that I look at it now is, could I go with my wife and show her mom, I love her mom to death, and her mom is not really into hunting. She's kind of, leaning that way now, and her friends, and not embarrass my wife by showing them what I did on the last hunt.
Mm-hmm.
If the answer is, yeah, of course, you're good. I've done my job, and I need to relay that to other people that you need to do the same thing. So here's some photos of us getting on horses or loading up the backpacks. Here's some amazing scenery. And, oh, yep, we did shoot an elk, and here it is deboned. And here I am, a month or two later, cooking it on the Traeger just like you guys cook burgers made from beef, and explain how the circle of life works. That is what needs to happen. And sometimes people do need, including myself, slapped in the back of the head and reminded of that.
Yeah, we're all human. We all need that. I'm like you, man. I've done some dumb shit. In fact, I am probably lucky from the standpoint of the law that there was no social media when I was young. So
yeah.
And that's that could be everybody's story, but I really like that. One thing I always think about is, like, okay, you've got this video or a picture, and let's say you're at Thanksgiving dinner, and you know how diverse Thanksgiving dinner could be with, you've got Aunt Biddy over there and Uncle Bob or whatever over there, and everybody's kids and different, new people coming into the family, their in-laws, they're marrying in, they're just, you've usually a Thanksgiving dinner. Well, I mean, not at my place. It's just usually me and my wife and my daughters at this point, because we live way out too far away. Most people aren't like that, though, and they have big groups of people. Would you show that to the group sitting down for Thanksgiving dinner? Like, would you show that on a big screen TV with all these people watching? And if you do show it, would it bode in a positive light for hunting? Or would it turn people off and make people think that you are just like this bloodthirsty redneck out to kill shit? You know what I mean? I think the way you put that is pretty damn good, man. A lot of people can learn from that, because that's I think what that when we're talking about trying to pursue policing our own. Keep bringing up Chris Rowe. He makes a good point with, like, the fishing community and how they've kind of policed their own, and now people are getting their hands wet before handling a trout or whatever fly fishermen do. Yeah, no, that's good stuff, man.
Well, and when I look at this, I think of, I was born, raised, very small town. Well, at the risk of hearing more hate mail, not a lot of law, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't follow a lot of, like, regulations or whatever back then. And then,
we didn't either.
Learning, when you get older, you grow up, you learn shit, you don't do dumb shit anymore. And I have to remember where I was, and I'm still not really grown up, but where I was 20 years ago, and then think of, okay, how would I have wanted to hear this? And when I say that, meaning I would have received it, right? You can hear all kinds of shit. That doesn't, you walk out the door and be like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
So I try to look at it that way and not be degrading to someone. And even though they may need, maybe an ass whooping every now and then, normally they don't even fucking know they're doing it wrong because of youth. And that sounds horrible by itself, right? Like, nobody wants to be called old man or hey kid. But occasionally you do have to say, look, man, in 10 years, you're probably going to look at this a different way. Just think about it. You're still my brother. Like, what, like, I still admire what you're doing. You're crushing it. But man, you got to think about shit before you post. Most people are really receptive to that. If they're not, they probably do need conked in the head.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just a great way to put it, man. I think that what do you view, Aron, as, like, when you kind of take this look back, you sit back and you kind of view, say the hunting community is out in front of you. What do you view as the biggest thing that threatens the future of hunters? Is it hunters themselves? Is it anti-hunters? Is it, legislative action? Is it, commissions, that kind of thing? What do you see as like the biggest threat to the future of hunting?
Man, that's a tough one.
I know it's a broad
because they're all
question.
kind of intertwined, but I would say hunters themselves are a pretty big problem, and obviously there's a lot of things tied to that. But you can't really fix other problems till you fix your own. You know what I mean? Like I can't go fix my neighbor's whatever leaky roof when mine's pissing water everywhere, right? I got to fix my own shit, move on.
Yeah.
And we have some internal problems, whether that be the wrong foot forward, not enough info. I can go on and on, right? But antis, yeah, I mean, at face value, like black and white, yeah, obviously antis are going to be the ones that cause the most problems. But if we give them less ammo, we speak intelligently, we get some good, solid representatives in front of us. And again, like, whatever takeaway, like keep people from shooting holes in the bottom of the boat. That's going to be a big one. But, I'm also barely graduated high school. I'm probably not the best person in the world to answer some of these questions. I just look at it, literally from as many different optics as I possibly can.
Well, I think I've heard you say that before. I think that one thing, what I really like about you, man, is like when I was in my, I don't know, this 5-6 years ago, I'm like, I started knocking on 40's door, and I start looking at like this mentality that I had where everybody I was around had this thing where when they got into their 40's, they start getting lethargic and everything hurts. They can't do everything. They can't do anything anymore. They start gaining a bunch of weight and all this kind of stuff. And it's not like I was thinking that's what was going to happen to me. It's just I thought that that's what happened to everybody, once they get to that age. And then I started like watching a bunch of your videos and listening to your podcast and whatnot. And what I liked about you is I was able to shake that thought. It's like, what do they call that? Like cognitive dissonance or some fancy term or some shit where you just have this mentality, like some fat people, they are that way because as a kid, they were told they had to finish everything on their plate. And so they have this mental thing where they think they have to do that even as adults, and they don't ever learn how to control that or discipline themselves on that side. And it was kind of the same thing where I just figured getting into my 40's, I was going to be slower. My knees were going to be just aching, which I have a jacked up knee from the military anyway, but that doesn't stop me from, in fact, where my knee bothers me the most is when I sit around too much. If I'm active, knee doesn't bother me. So anyway, what I like about you and the example you set, and sometimes you downplay what kind of influence you might have, because I think you're just a humble dude. You are the one that taught me that no, fuck that. Going into my 40's does not mean that I have to be fat. Does not mean that I have to be permanently aching everywhere. Does not mean that I can't keep doing what I do. In fact, it's changed my mentality. When I go out hunting with some of these younger dudes, I want to outperform them. Do I? Not always. Sometimes I do, because I've always been a mountain goat. But I could tell I'm slowing down, but I still get there. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm even making any sense, man. But I just wanted to, because we're going over an hour here, but I just want to like let you know. I think that kind of stuff is really important that you do. Because I think that without voices like you, I would have kind of fallen into that trap where I'm 42 now. How old are you, Aaron?
46.
Oh, okay. Where I could have fallen into that trap, and it's just it's voices like yours that help prevent that for me. And shoot, man, like I'm in better shape than I was when I was like 35, and so how the fuck did we get on this track? What did we start?
I don't know, but it's not a bad track. I mean, because people that say that age is only a number are full of shit, in my opinion, because it is a number that reminds you of all the dumb shit you have done up until the point you are at now. But I'm not saying you should give up at a higher age. What I am saying is you've earned that age, probably. Like, hopefully you've earned where you've gotten, and you've learned. Like, you have a lot of, well, I when you, the difference between, like, you have knowledge and wisdom. You can have a lot of knowledge at 30. You have a shitload of wisdom at 50, right?
Yeah.
You've earned some wisdom, like, when you've moved on. And so I feel it more than I used to. I've learned a lot. My job now, and your job and Chris's, as we're getting to be old farts, right? We got more years behind us than ahead, is to do a better job than the people behind us at relaying a good message, whether that be stay in shape, stay fit, don't be a moron, right? You speak intelligently on conservation, don't post dumb shit. That's our job now, to do our best to relay that message without coming off as a total dick, and help the future of hunting as best we can. And you can't do that when you're 25. I mean, you can, right? You can help hunting, but you don't have that wisdom behind you. And, again, like, I have people that are much older than me and some younger than me that I listen to, as well, that are very, they're just more diplomatic in some ways, and help me think of look at things in different ways. Some of the military guys I deal with, they're better. I'll give you an example as we're going off the deep end, unless you have to get off the phone or
I'm good,
the podcast.
man. No, I'm good.
A guy I worked with, military training stuff, super cool dude. I had said something during all the training of that week long, and it was just whatever, something I said. A week after we were done, he called me. He's like, "Man, I wanted to talk to you about something. Take it for what it's worth." And I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "Hey, that could have been perceived this way. And I know you well enough that I don't think you meant it that way. But yeah, dude, like, you got to watch what you see." He was just trying to make me a better human.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will take that and just get super mad and not take it for what it is. That sometimes, not everyone, sometimes when they give you advice, they are giving you that advice to make you a better person, a better human, and move forward in your life in a better way. And it is, especially for men, it is fucking hard for men to listen to another man, tell them they're potentially wrong, right? Or tell them that, and so it was something, and he and I are friends, and I listen, I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I get, you're right." And the thing that I learned from that, as well as other experiences, is like, if I'll use Chris Rowe, and I'm like, "Chris, dude, you crossed the fucking border on that one, man. Like, you should probably chill." It is up to Chris to say, Aron has a ulterior motive, right? Like, he's, you know what I mean? Whatever. He has some motive. Sure. Aron is trying to help me, or fuck Aron, right? Chris and I are close enough. We do the same thing. He's going to be like, "Man, let me think about this, reassess, right? Let me take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, maybe he was right." Or he'll call me back and we'll talk about it. And as men, for the most part, as men or humans, we have a fucking hard time of really self-assessment, constructive criticism, and admitting guilt, and including me, right? I'm not saying this like I'm perfect. I have the same problems. Man, if we could do that as a whole, and I'm not trying to leave women out of this, but I'm just saying men are all fucked up. If we could do that as a whole, as well as in the outdoor industry, shit, man, it'd be smooth sailing. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
If I could call somebody and say, I use Chris, whatever, or, someone else that I work with, mention something to them. We have a grown up conversation. We're friends when we're in, we give the pound, whatever the fuck men do. And we move forward trying to be better humans. That is a fucking direction we need to travel. And it is difficult for us to do that, especially in the hunting community.
As men, I think, and to your, what you mentioned there, I'm a man. I know how men think. I don't know how women think. So I never try to speak to that. And so I don't want anybody listening to this to get all bent out of shape that we're just kind of specifying it as men. This is a man mentality because that's what our experience is. So, I know that there is a lot of ego. There's a lot of, it's like a musician. I'm a musician, and let's say I'm playing guitar and there's another guitarist there, and he's like, dude, you're not stretching the chord with that finger right, or you're playing the chord too tightly, or whatever there'll be a little criticism. What's interesting with that, Aaron, is like I never get offended by shit like that when it's like we're talking about playing guitar or playing drums. I play guitar and drums. But when it comes to hunting, I'm super guilty of this, where somebody will be like, "Hey man, that's, I don't know, inappropriate, or you're doing this wrong, or maybe you should try this," and they're just trying to help me become better. But and you know, there's like this sense of I'm like upset or taking offense to it, and I think that is where I've noticed that as I get older, that starts alleviating itself, where it's more of I'm taking that individual's information that he or she is offering me, and I'm going to grow from it, and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to, at least at the minimum, take it into consideration. And that's, I think, the biggest difference. Like if you tried to tell me something to correct me especially like hunting, something hunting wise, when I was 25, hell no, right? It was just because I didn't have and I was immature for my age anyway. So, versus now in my 40s where like, and it doesn't matter if it's Aron Snyder or Chris Rowe or my neighbor down the street who might have some good information. I just will never understand the mentality of not taking that information and trying to grow and learn from it. And I think it's a good message for all, especially we could start a man discussion, dude. Like where
and, it's funny you bring that up. I did a podcast with a guy named Jay Volaton recently about this.
Uh-huh.
I was afraid to post it. It was like, feelings and men's issues and childhood and shit and everything else. And I will say it was the most, we got the most feedback on that podcast than any we have ever done, which is, saying something. We've done a lot.
This was on your show?
Yeah. It's worth a listen. I mean, it was a different direction we normally went, but, as we're talking about this, like you talk about hunting, I'll say I'm just as guilty as you. Somebody comes up and says, "Oh man, you should have done this," and I'm like, "Yeah, but who the fuck are you?" Shit I shouldn't be doing as a grown ass adult, right? Now I've gotten better, over the last 4 or 5 years, a lot better, to where now, it takes a lot. You say whatever. I don't get too, jazzed up about anything. But if the person this is the way I look at it now. If the person I know has my best intentions, when I say best intentions, he is worried about me at a high level. He has my best intentions in the back of his mind. I need to listen to him. If some asshole's trying to stir up shit, yeah, don't worry about that guy. But if someone calls me and talks to me about something, different tactics or calling or gear, if they're a buddy or true friend, you better listen. Because if you are not listening and you bow up and be all, manly, then you've got your own issues with that.
And that's another thing that you made a really good point there, because there's a difference between people that are trying to help you and offer the advice to you, man to man kind of thing, that has your best intentions at heart, versus somebody who is either A, jealous, or B, vindictive over something, or C, has some benefit of gain against your downfall, if that makes sense, if you will, and one thing I noticed, like nowadays, I can really pick that out quick. I know, I can tell if there's somebody that has the best of intentions behind what they are saying in terms of like a correction or whatever. I don't care if it's at my day job, I'm in roofing. And so, yeah, we talk about this kind of stuff a lot. It's like part of the atmosphere, culture, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, that kind of stuff, and I'm able to decipher the best of intentions versus somebody who's just vindictive. You ever get, like, you know what I'm saying with the vindictive thing? Like they benefit from your downfall in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I deal with that now, and I deal with whether it be haters or whatever people I've worked with, and with that, not to make this a motivational man speech, but like one thing that people need to really like think about is number one, other people's words can only affect you if you let them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, meaning if there is no physical damage to you or your wife or your kids, you are at what level that affects you. Now, physically, different story. And I've had to work on this myself. But when you look at it that way, like if and I'm going to bring up Chris again because we're buddies. If Chris starts some bash campaign, Aaron sucks or whatever, it is up to me to say Chris has his own issues. I hope he, wish him the best. And when I see him, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Or to say, all right, I'm going to fuck Chris up when I see him. There are people I still feel that way about. But what I have worked on a lot, and especially in the last 3 or 4 years, is, hey, you know what? If he's doing that, he's got his own issues. Fuck, I should probably, I don't want to make it worse. That is hard for men to do, including me, right? That's
Me
a hard
too.
thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think that is, I think one of the biggest downfalls as an adult male, again, women, ladies listening, I really apologize. We're not trying to, this isn't like, an all man show.
What we're saying is men are all fucked up is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Don't.
Men are fucked up. We have a harder time with our own egos and our own self-image, I think, from a sense of success and especially in hunting, who's the biggest badass, who shot the biggest bull, who shot the biggest buck or whatever. But this dude told me one time, and this was like over a decade ago, that the thing that will hold you back the most in life in terms of your success and how you are as a father, how you are as a husband, all these things, is your own ego. Your own ego will fuck you over more than the dude next door that wants to hold you back because he's jealous of the success you may achieve. And man, he was so right, man. It's your own ego. And I've been so guilty of that over the years too.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody is, and I don't. Again, I get, rightfully so. People say I'm like arrogant or whatever, but the reality is a lot of what I'm saying is because I've screwed up so much in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned from what I've screwed up, and I've worked on that because I want to make sure I'm a good spokesman for not just hunting, but also other people coming up into hunting, whether that be because of my construction background and then I made it into the industry or whatever. But ego is a problem, no matter what. And I see it constantly and I try to work on it as well. And when I say, like, people have a different definition of ego, like, to me anyway, from what I see, everybody's definition of what ego is a problem.
Yeah.
And when I say problem, all of them are bad. Some people don't think they have egos, including myself. Well, in the outdoor industry and hunting and everything else, like, can I go up to a person and say, hey, man, I don't think your pack was fitted correctly. You want me to help you with that? If their immediate defense is argumentative, like, digging in, how they're right, you're wrong, whatever you call that, ego or whatever you want to call it, like, that is bad. Meaning, like, if you came up to me and said, hey, man, you should probably not run those collars for the hounds you've got. Like, those collars aren't worth a shit. If my immediate defense is, dude, what the fuck do you know? And you've done it 20 years and I've done it for 2, I have a problem. Not you. That's me.
Yeah.
And that happens a ton in life in general, especially with dudes.
Well, and yeah, ego, I think you asked, I don't know if it's ego or not. I think it is ego. And I think that hunting just by its very nature is a lot of ego. If you look back at Native American tribes and some of the legends that they told around the fire back in the day, it was very egocentric, right? And it just has always been that way. And I don't think that all ego is bad. I think that there's a level of it that is necessary. It's when you allow ego to control you, that's when it becomes a problem. And when you're looking at it from the hunting perspective, it's been amplified by social media. and it, like the glory of the gram kind of, concept that we've talked about in the past, where that can feed into the ego, and it can make people pretty vengeful if they're not seeing that same kind of glory with through their own eyes and their own success and their own actions, and they're not seeing the results that maybe some dude down the road is. So anyway, no, this is great stuff, man. I really appreciate the conversation. The photography stuff, man. I was going to tell you, I talked my wife into, let's see, I want to pull your photography page back up. Because you have, let's see here, aronsnyder.com.
Yep, I've got Aron Snyder, Aron Snyder's Gear Corner, and Aron Snyder Photography.
There it is.
On Instagram, yep.
And this prints, are those like canvas prints? What are these prints you could buy?
Yep, you can do canvas or metal. You've got different options when you go on there.
You've got one where it is, I don't know if it's sunrise, sunset, whatever. There's like this, it's a moose. Clouds are just like a prolific orange or whatever. Great picture. My wife wants that, man, on like a canvas for when our house gets built.
Yeah, gotcha. You can click on the link or whatever. I'll help you guys out. But yeah, the photography thing is crazy because I didn't, you'd never guess I would, if I couldn't hunt tomorrow and I just photographed or did photography, I would be just as happy or close to as happy anyway. The photography thing is a huge portion of my life that I really have become, man, I can't get enough of it. I love photography. I don't know how else to say it.
How do you compare that, like from a passion standpoint, against hunting?
Man, as far as comparison, there are a lot of things the same. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of practice. You have to learn a lot. You don't have to be fit, but to get the photos I want, you have to be fit. The only thing at the end of it is you have to walk away with photography, taking a badass photo, and that's enough. And then you have to go eat beef, right, at the store.
Yeah.
With hunting, and the pack out and everything else. So they're not, identical by any, stretch of the definition, but I do really like photos and or photography. And one of the things about taking photos of other hunters is I get to experience both. And so a lot of times I will photograph a hunt, and I get just as much or close to as much out of that because I'm photographing or filming or whatever a hunt. I get to help with the pack out, whatever, and it is fulfilling, I guess you would say.
It seems that way. Like, I suck at photography, man. But I'm always drawn to passion, people that are passionate about things. And I could tell you've got a lot of passion behind photography. You've been doing like some episodes lately about, strictly about photography and stuff like that. I like it. I think it's like feeding your artistic side. You know what I mean? And that's part of what it is. But I know a couple things. Like, you're good at it, man. You really are good at it. I love and it's probably because of how relational the type of photography you do is to my life. But there's like two dudes I really like seeing the pictures. You, and I've got a buddy up here in North Idaho, Than Widner. He's a really good photographer as well. And it's an interesting thing for me because it's so foreign. I take a picture and everything I do to take a picture comes out wrong. And so I think it's, you got to have an eye and you got to have a passion for it for sure.
No, you do. And I think that it also helps in my mind or in my, whatever, the last 10 years of working in the outdoor industry, it also helps the ability to put your best foot forward as an outdoorsman. Like it definitely helps show other people and anti or neutral hunters that you're not just out there as some bloodthirsty dude cutting heads off. Like, it shows you care about the animals and you care about the outdoors. So it's been a big help for that with me, just kind of spreading the word and showing people what we're all about. Yeah.
You did an episode recently, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was not you, but I thought it was you that was talking about the benefit that you have with this photography thing is it's like giving you access to people that normally you wouldn't have, hung out with,
Yeah.
or who was that lady you were talking to? She's a photographer up in Alaska, I think.
Yeah.
The bear,
Yeah. Yeah. Little Bear.
little bear. Yeah.
So yeah, Brooke is her name. Yeah, and it's true. Like when you think about it, if you're a world-class tennis player and a hell of a hunter, they're going to cross paths, right? There's no way around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different with photography, right? So, if I have that ability to show people, even on social media, my photos, and when they message me about how can you take such a beautiful photo and hunt or kill an animal, fuck, that's like the open door. Like, let me give you a
Yeah.
few minutes of my time.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant by that. And, as well as obviously in person, is like, hey, that gives
Mm-hmm.
me the speak intelligently, let people understand what we're all about. And, when you tell someone like, hey, you know what? You went to the grocery store, you bought beef and chicken and fish, and I backpacked in, and you don't have to backpack, but I backpacked in several miles, put the animal on the ground. I practice year round, which they can see in my videos, packed it out on my own. Hey, I'm not saying what you did is wrong, but I did not kill it with my checkbook. I killed it with blood, sweat, and tears, my own hard work, got it out, and that food tastes even better that way
Mm-hmm.
compared to walking into the grocery store and buying it yourself. And that is a big eye opener for people. When you, again, when I say that, do it diplomatically and professionally. When you do it that way, they're like, I got to agree. Like, I just walked in today and, I bought a pound of burger. I didn't do anything to deserve that animal. I killed it with my checkbook. And you're just letting them know what we're about, and then it's not all negative.
There's like, I can't think of a better fusion of like this need for primal fulfillment through hunting and this attachment to nature and being a photographer at the same time, because it shows like, on one side it shows that you've got this primitive spirit, and on the other side it shows that you have this appreciation for wild things, wild animals, that aspect of it. And to fuse those together, it would make you a really good steward when you do cross paths and you do cross trails with the folks that do have questions about hunting and they don't understand it. Because let's face it, there's so many people, Aaron, that have grown up in this country that have no idea what hunting is. They have no attachment to it. They have never been to places that you have been and I have been, and they don't know what that feeling is and the work that goes into it to do that. And so when you can mesh those two, because they do understand photography, they do understand a love for animals, they do understand the passion for getting the right shot as a photographer, to be able to share that shot with other people that can enjoy that moment that you were able to capture, that is like permanent now in the world. It's like this permanent moment that'll forever be. And to be able to like combine that with somebody who also loves the primal pursuit of hunting might help it make sense in their mind. And that's, I think, why it makes it, your stewardship that much better. So, man, I feel like
it's
I'm
not going to hurt.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but it's not going to hurt. But I don't. Yeah, I mean, as we're talking about all this, like if anybody listening to our ramblings, like it's pretty easy. Try to be a good human. And when I say that, if someone pisses you off, I'm not saying let them walk all over you. Be a good person. Be a good steward of the outdoors. Be a good woodsman. Be as good of a photographer to show everyone what you're doing. Be a good outdoorsman. Be a good representative of hunting. If you do that, a lot of these problems are solved. And if you have questions about what that is a problem, but can be solved, meaning, should I post a photo of an arrow sticking through a deer's head? If you thought that was a good idea, you probably did not get slapped in the back of the fucking head enough when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Wokeism or not, right? Like that should have been taught to you early. If it hasn't, you're not a bad person. There are other people that can help you, lead you down the right path. And when I say right path, what maybe you or my or other people's version of the right path of putting your best foot forward. But again, if you do all those things, you think about what you post, you think about what you say before you do it. Occasionally you might be wrong. We'll be in a lot better position in 1, 2, 3 years than we are right now with people doing dumb shit and posting it on social media for the world to see.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So well put. So well put. Well, brother, I promise you I wouldn't keep you all night long. I do have one more question though for you. And I don't know if you know this. I'm kind of a smart ass sometimes, but
fire away.
After being on Joe Rogan and then the Western Huntsman, I just want to confirm that being on my show is a bigger deal, right?
Of course, yeah, definitely.
I do have a question. What was that like going into like the Joe Rogan studio? It's like that little room, man. Is it bizarre?
Yeah, I don't. Joe and I had talked and been friends for quite a while before that. So, the weirdest thing was flying to LA. Like I felt gay. I felt icky, right? But, other than that, I showed up. He had a couple former Navy SEAL, bodyguard dudes or whatever. We shot the shit for a few. Joe came in, did the 3-hour podcast, shot the shit for a few minutes. He was going to go work out. I went to the hotel and that was kind of it. I mean, I didn't, it was about what I expected it to be. And I admire Joe and he's a very intelligent person. It was an honor to be on there, but it wasn't anything more than it looked like. I showed up, we bullshitted for 3 hours. He's a fucking great human, a guy I would do anything for. I left and occasionally we talk now, but, I mean, it was cool other than the LA portion, which is why he moved out of LA.
Yeah. So I actually thought that you had gone. I thought you were like one of the first dudes to go to Austin when you moved there, but he was still in LA when you went, huh?
It was right before that. Yep. Right before that.
Gotcha. No, that's awesome. Congrats on that, man. Just congrats on, you set a great example, man. You had like this great American story. Now you're the owner of Kifaru. You're doing this thing where it's all these American-made products. They're high quality. They come from a place of experience and knowledge. And you've got this photography thing going. You're just a cool dude, man. Sincerely, I appreciate you and what you do, and appreciate you coming on my show.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. And I got to say, without my business partner, I'm not the only owner. Without him, Chad, he's a super cool dude. The crew behind me, I would not be able to do, what I do. It's definitely not just me. And, as I say that, Anders has been a huge part. He's running the company now. My marketing crew, everybody at the shop has been amazing. And again, my business partner, Chad's been a stud. So the last thing I'd want to do is hop off here, think back and think, boy, I did not mention anyone in that, because they definitely keep my shit together, including my wife. If it wasn't for her, I don't know what I'd be, but if she told me to shoot myself in the foot tonight and it would help me, I'd probably do it. So that's how much, whatever faith I have in her.
No, for sure. And I think that's what people appreciate you, man. We all have our haters, but you got to be one of the most authentic dudes in the hunting space. So really appreciate it, and stick on the line for just a minute. But like I said, I appreciate you taking the time with little Lola guy like me, and look forward to what the future brings, man. Appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me on, dude. I love what you do, and anytime. And you are definitely not the lowly man. Believe me, you and I, we breathe the same air, the same shit. So I appreciate having me on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, man. You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram at The Western Huntsman, and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you